Welcome back to Rotten Rust Garage. This weekend, I'm going to start doing something that I've been putting off for a long while, and it's time to get started and get after it. So, got to start stabbing these floor pans in the charger. Gonna need something to put my feet on when I start running it around. So, let's take a look at what we got going on here. Okay, so this pan came from a company called Year One a lot of years ago. I think I bought it around 2006 or 7 or something like that. And it's just been hanging out in the attic. Got a little bit of surface rust on it. It's actually a pretty good fitting piece, you know. But one of the things going on right now, I got it loosely marked. But one of the things I'm going to start off with here, first thing, is I'm going to go ahead and cut this pan right across through here. Get rid of this back portion that's sitting up on the seat reinforcement bracket here. You can see that it's not going all the way down. And I need this to drop all the way down. So let me pull it out of the way real quick and you'll see that the destroyed part of the floor is mostly up here. Right here is the spot welds. Get you in close to see the spot welds that are actually a little rusty. This is the spot welds for the cross frame that the torsion bar anchors into. A very, very important part of the frame of a unibody car. Obviously, I was just saying, you know, you got this bracket in the way, so this pan won't sit all the way down, but you can see this is all good metal back through here. So what I'm going to do is trim this pan up a little bit to fit in here somewhere in this region, right? Probably along this back flange of this cross member under here. And then once it's sitting down a little bit better, I can take another clean mark. Yeah, I need to poke at that. I don't know if that's bad or not. You take another clean mark and then just start slicing and dicing. So one of the things you'll see here is this part right here obviously isn't going to be caught by the pan. And some of this is pretty wafer thin up here. I think it's a little meatier over in this area. But we'll see. That's really sketchy to try and stab this in and weld it to that. I may end up blowing a bunch of this metal out. We'll see as we get there, but to cover this piece, I'm going to have to make something, which will be fine. Pan goes all the way up into the corner here and along this rail really nice. That'll take all this out. And you can see there's leftover, get you in close, there's leftover pop rivets here from where somebody had just, they had a little piece of aluminum kind of just hammered in here, and they pop riveted it in, and that did just fine for them. I'm going to be a little careful taking this out. There's a couple things I need from this pan. One is this template of where the gas pedal base bolts in, and up under here there's also a nice clip that I'll have to spot weld it on there. I'll have to get that off of there. That's what holds your speedometer cable and the wiring harness to the back of the transmission. I think like the neutral safety switch wiring harness. So anyhow, all I can do right now is I'm going to start trimming this at the back so it'll fit in here a little bit better. Double check that my mark is pretty good, and then I got to start cutting all this out and working down all these spot welds to get the whole thing out of there. Got to be careful. Got a new brake line under there. So I might as well get started now. All right, I got my marks on here, marked the inside of the car roughly, you know, within like a quarter, half an inch of where I want to kind of cut this off, because I'm not positive 100% how I want to do this yet. But I'm going to cut on this side of the tape. And the nice thing about having to do some extra patching up in that corner is I should have plenty of sheet metal left. This is actually I'm impressed with the quality of this floor pan from Year One. It's got, you know, good crisp bends in it, and everything really matches very well the factory lines in the car. That's where a plug would go. Obviously a plug goes there as well. So it's a nice pan. I'm going to go ahead and use it. Even though a full floor pan would be ideal, this is going to do just fine for my needs. So time to get cutting. Okay, back in the car here. Now that this will seat fully down flush with the existing floor pan, you can see where that line is really off where I marked it before, because this was holding it up. So Yeah, I'm gonna get rid of this chalk mark here and make a new one and start looking at it. I think everything else is looking pretty good. They've got all the contours. One thing is, you know, the little, well, I guess you'd call that stressed there from where they bent it, where they formed it. Of course, that's a little wavy. I'll have to get a hammer and dolly on that because the actual floor pan is not wavy like that from the stress of pressing it on the die. But over here, looking good. Up into this corner, and it looks like I'm going to have to roll the top of this a little bit to get into the side here. That's not going to be a big deal. This will sit down just fractionally once the old pan is out, you know, so not a whole lot. But I guess now time to start marking and cut out the old pan. Okay, so I've got the pan back in here, and I've got a little bit cleaner mark now, exactly where it's going to go. Obviously, it's a giant crayon mark, so now it's the time where I'm going to start cutting it out, and I'm going to give a little bit of, you know, space below that line. I'm not going to cut right up to the line. I'm going to cut right below it. And I've been giving a lot of thought to this back area here, and I think what I'm going to do is take a little bit more off of this pan, and because, let me get it out of the way so you can see. Apologies here. Yeah, here's one of the reasons why I've been putting this off. I hate drilling out spot welds. Rarely works, you end up grinding it out or whatever, but these spot welds here are on the flange from the cross member here, all right, the transmission cross member. And just beyond that is obviously just floorboard. So I'm worried about if I cut beyond that, what I got underneath of here is a whole thick mess of undercoating that's very, very hard. I don't want to start dealing with that. Getting into the welds, it's going to start melting. There's no way I can probably get it off of there without a lot of effort. So what I think I'm going to do is just butt these up to each other on this flange. I'll put a couple of spot welds into the flange itself, but then also the weld, the seam weld there, because you can see I got to come pretty far back. Also, trying to find the spot welds in this rusty area is not fun. I can see a couple. I just hit it with the die grinder with a sanding disc. But yeah, there's like a gap there, no welds there, but I think that might be one. Tough to say. So now I'm going to get busy, start cutting this floor out of the way, and then I'm going to start wrestling with these. So be back in a few. Doing my best attempt at drilling out some of these spot welds, and it's a crapshoot when you try and do that stuff. It's not easy, especially old rusty ones. There's spot welds all through here too. There's no way I'm going to find them. In fact, I couldn't find any of these. There's everywhere that there's rust, there's a dent. So I'm sure there's a couple, but that's what this is for. So now it's just a matter of getting in here, cutting below my lines, and starting to sneak up on it. And then I'm just gonna have to hammer and chisel all this out of here. All right, so I've cut out this area because it's still spot welded underneath all this rust to the subframe there. So basically just gonna try and peel it all back using this chisel and breaking it away, getting it off of there, and trying to just get her free. And these spot welds, yep, there's one. They should just pop right free with some just work. And this is going to turn into a rolled up ball of mess, but here's another one. There's no other way to get these welds though. Just got to be real careful cutting to not go through your subframe. Of course, I guess if you do, you can just weld it back up, no big deal. Not sure, I don't think I got through this part right here very well. I did not. I think that's still attached right there. Yep. All right. I'll be back. I'm gonna get the cutoff wheel and cut that down a little more. All right, got that little area. Now just keep on chiseling away. Spot weld right there. And just keep folded back. Well, that one went all the way through, so I'm gonna have to start a fresh bite on that. Come from the other side. There you go. And just come through here with the sanding wheel and clean all this up. All right, I'll be back in a little bit. I'm going to finish tearing this out of here. All right, so now you saw how that's going to come out of there, and all I got to do now is go through and just grind off these spot welds right here where the metal tore. But there was no hope of finding those. And it gives you a good look inside of the frame rail here, so that's pretty cool. It's got surface rust all over it, but what's really cool about doing this floor pan is I'll be able to get all that with POR 15 or rust prevention or whatever. It's going to be a lot stronger now with good metal on it too. So this piece is loose. Now I just got to do the same, cut along here on my tape line, cut that little bit there, and then hammer out all these spot welds. Oh joy. All right, well, it's the next day and did a bunch of errands and yard work and stuff, and now I'm back on this floor pan and been thinking about it a lot, and I'm kind of in a little bit of a pickle here, and let me show you what I'm talking about. Since I don't do this on a regular basis, I don't really have a solid plan. So here's the issue I'm running into, right? So here's the cross frame under here, the cross member, and this is the line that would be on top of the flange of that cross member that's underneath of this floor, and that way I could weld, you know, to this piece here. That's all good metal there. But the problem is, as I mentioned, I'm trying to avoid coming over further past the cross frame and, you know, welding there, because it's got all that, you know, crazy hard undercoating underneath of there, and I can't really get to it very good to, you know, maybe try and heat it off there or whatever. I'm really worried about how that's going to end up, you know, working out. So anyway, if I cut this off here, I have no way laying the pan on top to go underneath and scribe a line, because the cross member will be in the way, to know where to cut the pan off to match it. So I'll just kind of be guessing. So I'm trying to figure that out. But right now what I'm going to do is go ahead and get the rest of this out of here. And what I'm going to do is split this down the center in the hollow portion of this. That way I can peel these up, because these spot welds are really going to be a bear. I might even cut this little piece off over here just to preserve that corner for my marks there. So all I can do now is get after it. Oh, and here's a good shot inside the frame, all the trash. I'll get the vacuum over here, but it's really clean in there. Even a little bit of factory primer still in that little spot. Surface rust, no big deal. Really nice time to get all this painted and cleaned up, descaled. And this metal's still pretty thick here. Right there is the thinnest spot. Over here, nice and thick. I think we'll be okay welding on all that. So we'll see. Never know till we start welding. through here. That way I can peel this side up. This side, I can't even get these spot welds. They're way too gone. So right through the center she goes. Hardly at all. Yep. And there's another one there that I didn't even try to drill. Too rusty. Right through it. Through that one too. Now you can see why I split this in the middle to roll up each side instead of trying to do both of them together. Let's see how we did on these up here, where there was still good metal. All right, we're through. Next one up, I got perfect, so it's already busted free. All right, now it doesn't want to roll because it's got a bend right there. So I'm just gonna try and sneak up on these next couple from in here. Yeah, missed that one completely. But might be able to. There, just popped it. What little bit was still hanging on just popped free. Now that top one appears to be breaking. Little tap. Help it out. There it is. A little bit right there. All right. She's out. All right, so now I've got the metal out of the way and it's time to start cleaning all this up a little bit more. A couple of things I'm going to do: wire brush inside of all this frame channel, and then once I've got it all cleaned up really good, next thing I'm going to do, where I got a little aggressive drilling out these spot welds, I got to go back in and weld up this flange again just to fill it in, then grind it back down. Do the same here where I got a little aggressive with the cutoff wheel, took a little slice out of this flange, and that one barely got into it, but I'm still going to go ahead and put fresh metal there, and with the hot glue stick grind that all down. And then when that's done, the next step will be to go through here with the wire brush as much as possible, and then hit it all with POR 15 everywhere in there to do as much preservation as I can since I'm already in here. So I'll get started on some of that. good enough. This is that undercoating burning off under there, and that's exactly what will happen if I try and seam weld this through here. It'll wick right up into the weld, splatter and sputter everywhere and catch on fire and all that nonsense. So I'm gonna do something different. Don't know if it'll work or not, but you know, FAFO. All right, so now I got it all prepped and I sanded down everything and like filled in where I'd over drilled. It's like it never even happened, where I cut through a little bit too deep right here. That's like it never happened here. Now I'm going to take some tape and tape off the areas that I don't want to get POR 15 on, because I don't want to have to try to grind that off to weld coming up here in a few days. So I'm going to get this POR 15 started and then going to let it dry. Once it tacks up in a couple hours, I'll hit it with a top coat of a weld through primer. And this is also going to take a little bit of calculating, because right there I need to do a spot weld. Up here the pan doesn't touch that portion of that boxing plate, but what I want to do is leave this tape off to the side so I can go underneath and mark it, so that when I outline this, when the pan's sitting in there, I can outline all my structure here and know exactly where to start drilling through for the spot welds that are going to come here in a few days. So with that said, I guess it's time to get started with the POR 15. Okay, no rocket science here, just a disposable chip brush. And I'm going to get it all down inside of here where all this scale is. I did my best to try and wire brush it all out of here. Vacuum some, ended up with the air nozzle, just blowing all of it out of the way, getting it all out of here so it's clean, no debris down in there. This will be just fine. Should be a pretty good thing to do inside of this frame. It's not bad, it's just I don't want it to get worse. No holes or damage, it's just a lot of surface scale. And I don't want that, because I don't plan to be back in here anytime soon. Although someday, you never know, may have to pull a floor pan again. Tough to say, because I'm pretty sure the windshield is still going to leak and the door is still going to leak and all that. So no carpet's going to go in here for a while. Pretty stout cross member too. This is where the torsion bar anchors in, and then also you've got a big plate of steel right here that I'm painting. It's about, looks to be about 3/16 thick, and that's where you bolt through for the transmission mount. And of course this pocket for the torsion bar is a critical piece so that you have your spring. So this is kind of an important part of the car, structurally that is. A quick note while I'm on it for POR 15, it's really good stuff. I like using it. I've used it for years. Once you put it on something, it's pretty much permanent. You know, that's what it looks like. And I buy these little 6-pack cans. It's expensive stuff, but it's gotten more expensive over the years. So a couple of things on that. I buy the 6-pack cans because a little goes a long way, and like maybe one of these cans, basically you can spread it across, you know, I don't know, a whole floor of this car, for instance. But it's too expensive to waste. So when you get the smaller cans, you have a higher opportunity to use all of it and then throw the empty can away and start a new can, rather than buying a big quart can where you only lose a little bit of it, use a little bit, and then you end up, you know, it hardens up on you. So a couple of notes on that. I always take lacquer thinner and a paper towel and I wipe around on the inside of this can where I got the paint on it from the brush. And then you take a piece of clean saran wrap, lay it over it, and then tap the lid back onto it. That's the only way for it to survive. And then the final point on this stuff, store it in the refrigerator, right? Store it in the refrigerator. I found that keeps it a very, 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 very long shelf life. I've got a couple more packs of this in my refrigerator out here now. So just some tips. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode. Running out of time this weekend, and got some other things I got to do anyhow. So just all I can do is keep on chipping away at it. There's some little odds and ends I'm going to do off camera. I got some other garbage done on it, but it's just going to be a slow walk. So probably 2 videos to get the driver's side floorboard done. I'm not in a big rush to get that done. I want to take my time and do it, you know, to the best of my ability. To have a permanent repair, hopefully, it doesn't rust out again someday. But, you know, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe or leave a comment down below. Maybe you did it differently. Maybe you would do it differently. I'm just doing it the way I think best to get to the end game, which is to, you know, here in the next few months, get this car on the road. And I definitely am going to need a floor pan underneath of the gas pedal. So anyhow, we'll talk to you soon, and catch up with me again in a few weeks, and we'll see the rest of that pan going and getting stitched in. So have a great week. Thanks. Now I'm going to play guitar. Get this thing out of here. Oh!